Hey, it's Pavel. The plan for this video is to further extend our Golang server application with a customized loader. For that, we will use a zap that we already included on the previous video, but we will build our layer of abstraction over it to allow some customization for it. To make that possible, I have added a few functions to our env, so we can get environment variable or some default value if it's not defined. I have already included it into server initialization, and now we don't need to define host or port to get the app running. So to get it started, we need to create some instance of loader that we will use in our application then, and that will be a subcore tree of loaders, which will be defined by me in a moment, and some options. While the options is some configuration of what the load should include. It's just a simple list of options, and here I will use predefined by a zap caller extension, which adds a few additional items, and basically that's it. And we want to define loaders function. It should return a subcore list, as it's an interface on which are the loaders defined for zap. We need an empty slice which will hold our definitions. We will push console loader here, and if we allow a loading to file, let's keep it parameterized, and by default we do want it enabled. Then we will append it with some file loader as well, and we will need to return the parts then, as we have them defined. So let's start with a simpler console loader. We will make it simple and plain text. So we will define some text encoder. And we will need to add a synchronizer, which means a channel to which we want to write our output, and we need some load level on which we will load our data. For that, let's start with that loader. If we have a level defined in environment variable and it's defined correctly, or we can set it as basic to info. We'll make it even simpler. If the parsing of it passed, then we can if there was some error during the parsing, we can return that default info level, and if it was fine, then we can return the level that we have defined in our configuration. That would make it for getting load level. we need encoders. Let's start with text one, which we already tried to use, and it's a new console encoder. As for that new production encoder config, I won't get deeper into it. I'm using the basic one. If you feel like playing with it, it still allows some configuration defined. And that console one is already ready to use. We need one more encoder for one more loader. So let's define a file loader, as we might want to store our logging, especially for production purposes in file. For that, we will use JSON encoder. Let's keep the JSON format that we already know from the default ZAP usage that we had on the beginning. We will add one more library here. We need a lumberjack to handle rolling files. So let's install that dependency. And we should be already able to use it. We need to add it as a sync channel. And here we put a file name. Let it be all configurable. And make it basic as API for now. Let's define some maximal size for our file. It should be 500 mega. Maximal amount of backup files. And let's make it 7. And maximal age of file. So let's keep history of 28. That will let us have a rolling lot of fresh up to 7 files from last 28 days, which should be just enough to validate any issues on production's environment from that. All we need now is one more encoder for that JSON, which is another basic subcore new JSON encoder. And it will be also just zap new production encoder config. And then I won't get too deep into that. I don't want to prolong this too much. If you feel like go on and determine what else we can configure here. The loader should be working for now. So let's actually use it somewhere around the server definition and creation. We do have a lot fatal here in case of application failing to start. So let's add something like utils loader. Oh, yes. Firstly, we would need to pin it here to router, of course, And one more thing to add is to add recovery for loading, which basically means that in case of error we will get load entries here. It might be quite a nice feature that might also save us in case of some serious issues. We added loading in env, so we can extend it here with using our loader. Let's make it warn. In case of no file, let's make it debug. If the file was loaded, we don't need to get to know it always. And let's make it fatal in case of an issue. I think it's already have some formatting. No, it doesn't. We need to get already formatted string to make it working. And this we can add some message here. Here, let's say, to see that it does work. Make it info, so we are sure that we will get it. Starting server instance let's format it and let's make a function which will return an address of the server, so we don't duplicate this code. It will be just this part that we already have, but as we will now use it in two places, not one, it will minimize the amount of our code. Having that default value set for the host and port, we should be able just to run it. Let's check. And I have missed something. Oh, okay. We need to either return something or kill the program. Let's make it init again, so it works as it should. And let's try to start the server. We can see that we have a console login, not the JSON one, and we can see that varload API has no permission to create files, so we won't have a load file for this configuration. That would need just to make this directory and give it some permission. I won't do it for now. If you feel like checking, it will work if you give correct permission to aforementioned file. Thanks for attention. That would make it for this video, and feel welcome to check the other ones.